Actually, I don't believe that having higher standards in gaming specifically leads to uh, a greater appreciation or a more fulfilled experience. And I will explain why, because that might seem like a hot take. In any other industry, books, movies, even TV shows, music, etc., learning about the process that it takes to create something and learning the standards and why those standards exist, and then forming your own standards of quality and figuring out like even the concept of objective discussion and having like a criteria that's consistent across all products, and then saying like, okay, based on this criteria that I will explain when in discussions with other people so that they can also come to the same conclusions based on those criteria, or tell me why they think that I'm wrong despite understanding the criteria, all that stuff. You can't even like without even getting into that. When you get into the point where you are able to do all of that stuff, learning all that information, doing all that research, having all those experiences, trying it out yourself, or just learning from people who do, maybe you don't have any interest in making games yourself, but you sit here and you listen to a stream where a guy is in the middle of making some concepts and talks about at you or about this kind of shit while you're listening. Even if you're just a consumer, like the average consumer, and you integrate this information into your oeuvre, that will improve your appreciation for those products. That'll improve your appreciation for books or for movies. You'll learn about what the director of your favorite film thinks, and then you'll learn like, oh, his inspiration was this. Maybe I'll go look at that, and then you get to like get all of this information, all this networking. You figure it all out, and you start to really increase your understanding of the medium, and that will increase your appreciation for the really good elements of it. That's like really the thrust of elitism in and of itself, to be honest, is it's not like looking down on bad products. I mean, it is, but that's not the main point. The point is looking down on them because they fail to achieve what they could, and then comparing and contrasting those to superior products that you think did achieve what they set out to do. And maybe there are still flaws in them. I mean, odds are there are, because nothing's perfect. But the flaws there can still be discussed and, in a way, enhance the overall experience because... or the experience of discussing it anyway, because if it was completely perfect and there was no presumed way to improve, then suddenly, oh, well, we can't live up to that, like, or we have to just try to meet that standard. We can't even exceed it. So there's always that pursuit of additional quality. In games, there's nothing good. There's literally no good game. I'm sorry to fucking destroy everybody's dreams here, but there is literally no good game. I have played so many games, especially recently, where all I'm looking for, I'm not looking for like really good story. I'm not looking for like serious character development or stuff that would actually take some degree of non-game expertise to do well, where you need to research stories and how they're told and characters and all this shit and plots. You need to research all that stuff and understand it. And that's not intrinsic to a video game. So that would be extra work on top of learning how to master the craft of being a video game developer and designer. So I wouldn't expect that anyway. And that's not even what I'm looking for. I'm just looking for a reasonable experience where I can enjoy myself playing a game. But that never happens. It's always like the game doesn't perform very well despite my top-of-the-line hardware and just glitches all the time and has some really obvious issues that makes it look like they didn't even fucking test it. Wow. Oh, here's another one. If the game just came out, well, you better delay it for like at least 6 months in terms of your purchase as a consumer, because why the fuck would you want to play a game that just came out? It's not finished yet, even though it came out. It's going to be finished in a year. Check back in a year. Hopefully it'll be on sale then. It's like ridiculous fucking practice. Then you get the idea of the game just randomly interrupting the gameplay. Oh, here's a great example. The Ascent is actually an example of a game that I just tried yesterday and has so many of these problems, it's not even fucking funny. It just came out recently. Check. Not fucking finished, blatant errors and issues everywhere, horrible performance hitches in the middle of gameplay, also in the middle of gameplay, uninterruptible, unskippable tips that you have to hold your spacebar in order to skip for like at least 3 seconds, dude. So every single time they want to tutorialize a new mechanic, instead of doing it organically, they just tip your screen, not in a way that's subtle and can be ignored or skipped with some other dismissive button push, in the middle of combat while you're being attacked and can't respond. Classic. Yeah, a lot of testing and effort went into that. Okay, so this is just one example, Pronogo. Come on, there's got to be good games out there, right? Well, I'm sorry, I've literally played like thousands of games by this point, and none of them are good. The closest you get is like, okay, this game has a lot of potential, but why the fuck is that the best that can be done? I mean, it's not the best that can be done, but why is that the best that has been done? You get the idea. It's in gaming. I actually think that until there are really good counter examples of terrible, like examples of really good games that buck all of the trends, that don't have all the stupid shit, that drag every game down, then you get to the point where you can say, yes, building a lot of really good standards, understanding what makes a game good, like the mechanics of what makes it enjoyable, all of those will lead to more fulfilled experiences. Unfortunately, I can only recommend the path of the crow pill, where you actually do understand all of this stuff and you learn and you practice and you figure out, like, oh, let's discover what makes good games. The only way that that's in any way something that you should pursue is if you yourself are trying to develop games. Because if you're trying to develop games, you should actually learn this stuff and you should figure this shit out. But if you're not trying to develop games, if you're not trying to assemble, like, okay, my response to the games industry being bad will be to make a good game. If that's not your goal, then why would you learn about this stuff? Like, if anything, all it's going to do is reduce your enjoyment. There's a reason why people say that they've grown out of games, by the way. It's because their general standards as living entities has increased, and games have gone down in quality. Not even stabilized. They've just gone down. They've gotten worse since the early 2000s, which is not where they were, like, very good either, obviously. So, like, this is a case where if you're just a consumer and you have no interest in pursuing development, which you don't have to, it's not even a bad thing. Like, not everybody feels the call to create. Not everybody feels the desire to make something. And if they do, it's not always video games. And that's totally fine. But if you're not interested in game development, in terms of actually improving, and like making a product that improves upon and learns from history, then you should not learn. I would say it would be a net detriment to learn all of these things, because all they're going to do are open your eyes as to where every game fails. And that's no good, man. That's just depressing. You mentioned there's like a deeper essence to your question, which is, should consumers of any kind of product appreciate, like, should they learn about what makes that product, like what makes it work, and then use that, like, will that lead to more fulfillment? Again, I think it will lead to more fulfillment in every industry other than games. I'm promising the idea that we'll get to the point where I can comfortably say, hey, we got good games because I fucking made them. And unfortunately, I had to be the one to make them. But hey, fortunately, I made them. Like, that's what I hope to be able to say in like 6 months or a year or whatever. But right now, learning about games is bound to make you dissatisfied with all of the gaming experiences you have. So it's kind of like, do you want to improve your standards, improve your understanding and knowledge base and wisdom in this field, knowing that the trade-off is you will not find any experience in the gaming industry particularly compelling. There will always be a bunch of asterisks next to any enjoyable experience you have. I'm not saying I don't enjoy my time with games, but I do have to play them with other people, basically, because if I don't play them with other people, there's no value, right? So that's where, like, playing anything with friends is like infinitely more entertaining than playing it solo. I have no single player experiences anymore because all of the games are terrible. So the best thing that I can get is, like, I'll do some shit in Aim Lab or whatever, and that's like a mini game, like precision, like improving thing. That's not a game thing in the conventional sense. So yeah, I'm not saying you should just drool and enjoy the game. I actually think the upside to, if enough consumers realized what the shortcomings of games were, then they would not buy any of the games that are released these days in such a sufficient quantity that the developers would be forced to innovate and improve. And it's not even really innovation, in my opinion, because this is all stuff that's like been done. So you get the idea. In the long run, it would definitely, like, the education side of things, improving people's understanding of stuff, would definitely benefit things. And that's what I aim to do. And that's why I'm spreading the crow pill. That's why I'm writing prescriptions, whatever the fuck joke is. You get the idea. That's why I'm doing that stuff. And it's also why I'm making my own games. Is in some way, I do want like obviously the main motivation, you could say, primary motivation, is I want to be able to say, okay, I've got some leisure time here. I'll spend it playing a game, and I'll actually have a good time because it's a good game. The fact that it's made by me is not really that relevant, to be honest. I just want a good game to play. That was the reason why I started making content in the first place in Brood War, because I wanted good Brood War campaigns and products to play, and none existed. I was like, all right, I'll do it myself. So in many ways, a similar reflection of a similar mindset. The value of education, the value of learning about that stuff and being aware, as you're saying, is very high, and something I totally 100% with no strings attached think is a good thing, no asterisks, in every other realm of existence, pretty much. Maybe not politics or like, what's the term? Geopolitical elements where or whatever, because that just gets people depressed most often. But at the very least, like every form of media that is used for relaxation, like TV or books or whatever, learning about that stuff will make you it'll inform your purchasing decisions. So you'll spend money only on better products, and you'll have a more fulfilled existence because you'll be consuming better media in your downtime or whatever. Basically, you're adding value even to something that by itself, our culture has this weird obsession with it not actually providing value. But I think part of that is a reflection of the average quality going down. So whatever. Yes, truth hurts, but worth it in the video game space. And that's why I was saying, like, if you're just a player and you have no aspiration for improving the games industry, and you have no aspiration of entering the games industry yourself, then there's not really a good argument that I have for learning about this stuff. But if you're trying to guide your purchasing decisions or use something to guide your purchasing decisions towards higher quality stuff, then yes, it makes absolute sense to learn about something, because that's just a truism in general for all media, all products. So yeah.